3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Your Daily Detroit, recorded at the Narrow Way Cafe on Livernois for Wednesday, August 21st, 2019. I'm Sven Gustafson.
And I'm Jer Stays. Sven, did you know that we're steps away from Motown legend Marvin Gaye's old house? It's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, that's definitely what's going on, man. You know what else is going on? We're going to start releasing this show in mornings so you can get a whole day of Your Daily Detroit. Jer, will wonders never cease?
I mean, it means we're going to have to do things in the morning. I mean, I don't do things without coffee, but you know where we can get coffee?
Right here at the Narrow Way Cafe.
Exactly.
On Livernois.
So let's get to your show right after this. Daily Detroit is brought to you in part by Digital Summit Detroit. It'll be September 25th and 26th at Copo Center. The lineup includes Seth Godin, NBA Hall of Famer Dennis Rodman, Rand Fishkin, plus 55 in-depth digital marketing, design, and strategy sessions from YouTube, Ford, Quicken Loans, Cars.com, and many, many more. Visit digitalsummitdetroit.com for more information and use promo code DD50 to save $50 on any ticket. That's DD50 at digitalsummitdetroit.com.
Jer, over under on whether Dennis Rodman talks about his buddy Kim Jong-un?
That would be amazing. Oakland County has a new executive. In an interesting twist of political fate, Ferndale Mayor David Coulter was appointed by the Democratic-controlled Oakland County Commission along party lines this week. It means the first exec from that party in the county's history. Coulter resigned his position as Ferndale mayor on Monday to take the job. Sven, you've covered Oakland County at the Oakland Press, and you do with us now. This feels like a pretty big change to me. And I mean, maybe the talk of throwing corn and blankets over fences might be over.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think my prediction is that David Coulter is going to be much more tame than Brooks Patterson was in that way. I don't think he's going to be the kind of politician who's going to put his foot in his mouth, figuratively speaking, and make headlines for the wrong reasons. And it's definitely significant. As you mentioned, Oakland County's never been led by a Democratic county executive. It's been a reflection of the way things have gone recently. I mean, Oakland County's Board of Commissioners, which is the whole reason he's serving out this temporary term, flipped to the Democratic column for the first time in decades after the election last fall.
And that was even after a gerrymandering move and a commission stacking move by L. Brooks Patterson to try to get more Republicans on it. Right.
And Alyssa Slotkin, and when you're talking about the U.S. House, took over a seat long held by Republicans. So things have definitely been trending in that direction for a while. A little bit about Dave Coulter. He spent almost 9 years as Ferndale's mayor. He was, before that, he was a member of the Oakland County Board of Commissioners, where he was the leader of the Democratic minority, which was in the distinct minority at that time. And he has said publicly in quotes that he was appointed, to fill out Brooks Patterson's term to manage the transition, not necessarily to fix anything. And he's also said he doesn't even know yet whether he's going to run for the permanent job, like a full term in 2020. In fact, I discovered today that he's got his DaveCoulter.com is his campaign for state rep. He had previously said he was going to step down as Ferndale mayor at the end of this year to run for state rep. So who knows what happens, which is kind of interesting. But I think in a lot of ways he's going to actually be kind of similar to Brooks. I mean, aside from not making statements about throwing corn and blankets over the fence. But he's really established himself kind of as a sound fiscal hawk in a way. I think Ferndale did a great job managing their way through the Great Recession. I mean, I've lived in Ferndale for 15 years. Like every city, they saw their tax revenues from property taxes absolutely plummet almost overnight during the Great Recession. But to residents, there was really almost no discernible downturn in the level of services that provided for us, which was great. He's been a proponent of practicing multi-year budgeting, which he very well may have gotten from Brooks Patterson himself.
And I would note here that in his acceptance speech, he actually talked about the budget being a priority, and he actually mentioned L. Brooks by name about making sure about fiscal responsibility, the budget, those kind of things. It feels like when a rubber hits the road kind of way, there actually might be some similarities in style from a very practical point of view.
Yeah, I think so. Coulter's also convened like a roundtable group of business leaders in Ferndale because he's really been out front about trying to be friendly to businesses and make it easy for businesses that want to locate in Ferndale to work with the city government and all the bureaucracy and everything. Ferndale is totally unlike, a lot of the job centers in Oakland County, like, your Troys or Southfields or Auburn Hills. It doesn't have much in the way of Class A office space, but what it does offer is a vibrant downtown. It's actually got a decent sized industrial district along the railroad tracks that I would say is kind of notable because there aren't that many major vacancies in that industrial district. They've done a good job of kind of filling a lot of those buildings in there.
And sometimes with creative uses, if you think about Drifter Coffee, which is just beautiful in there, you wouldn't think that would be in an industrial strip. But it is Urban Res Brewing and all kinds of things like that.
Yeah, and there's a new marijuana business that's getting ready to open that they've kind of painted a building recently. There's a lot of new housing in Ferndale. There's two major construction sites going on right now. So a lot of economic activity. It's been a very desirable place for businesses and people to move into and everything.
Do you think this is reflective of urban entering suburbs being ascendant and like rising up?
I do, absolutely. And it's a reflection, partly of changing trends. I think you're seeing with kind of the, you've been reading so much about millennials wanting to live in cities and places that are walkable and everything. I definitely think that's true. Ferndale and a lot of the cities in the southeast end of Oakland really suffered under Brooks Patterson's kind of more isolationist, pro-sprawl governing philosophy, and I think that's kind of changed. You've seen a lot of the the big economic development wins move from those traditional Oakland County job centers I mentioned to places like Detroit and Ferndale, frankly. So my guess is that Dave Coulter is really going to be kind of like he's not going to look to make a lot of headlines outside of just kind of keeping the steady ship, and that he's going to leave sort of the more progressive social legislating things, the human rights ordinances or whatever, to the County Board of Commissioners, which, is controlled 11-10 by Democrats.
Thanks, Sven.
File this one under, it's great that it's happening, but it's supposed to. The QLINE, the streetcar that runs for about 3 miles from downtown to the new center, is now accepting the same regional fare pass that both SMART and DDOT do. It's called a DART pass, and it allows riders unlimited usage of the participating transit systems for 4 hours for $2 or 24 hours for $5. This also means that the QLINE fare increases from $1.50 for 4 hours to $2, and from $3 to $5 for a day pass.
Well, Sven, as a semi-regular user of the QLINE and transit in general, I think this is going to help them a bit. Ridership has been down ever since it was free. It's never hit expectations ever since they started charging. And I think part of it is that, and I think this will be, of course, marginal. I don't think it's going to be huge, but part of the problem is that you have to choose, okay, am I going to take the bus or am I going to take the QLINE? The two things don't work together. And if we're going to be honest, if you are on Woodward and you need to get downtown fast, you take the bus. Like if you need speed, the bus is way faster and more reliable than the QLINE.
Well, I think that's one of the issues. I think this is a great start. It's one of many things that needs to happen to improve the QLINE. The other one being speed. It needs to increase its operating speed. It needs some of the signal priority that they've talked about doing these things.
They keep saying they're going to do it, but I don't see any. It doesn't seem like it. No, there's a lot of things like that. I mean, for one thing though, I will say this is great that one basic fare card isn't just happening for the QLINE, but Detroit System, DDOT, and the Suburban Smart. But it's also what you're supposed to do. This is exactly like how real regions function.
Yeah, we'll wait eagerly for the news that this is going to be applying to the People Mover now too, yeah?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like that would be the perfect answer in that kind of downtown core. Obviously, again, it's about the downtown core, but that's, I think, where you're going to get some of that initial traction with the People Mover and things. It would be great to have one fare card. I've seen rumors it was going to happen. Don't know for sure. And just so that people know, this is actually going to take effect October 1st. So this isn't immediate, but it's definitely coming ahead. But I do have a bone to pick, Sven.
Okay, what's that?
And it's a little bit along the lines of some of the things we talked about. The press materials keep saying that the QLINE is a 6.6 mile route. They need to stop, because that's not true. I get it. Like, they're being technically correct, because what they're doing is they're counting both sides of the track. Like, they're counting north and south. But as one presidential candidate would say, that's a bunch of malarkey. Because if it was a 6.6-mile route, it would run basically all the way to McNichols, which would be a lot more useful.
It would be helpful, yeah. It would get you a lot closer to 8 Mile, which then we're really talking, I think.
Ford Motor Company and its Lincoln luxury division are reportedly lining up a pair of mid-sized battery electric crossovers to be built at the Flat Rock assembly plant. That likely spells the end of the road for production of the Lincoln Continental sedan just a few years after the legendary nameplate was reintroduced. Automotive News first reported the story, citing anonymous sources familiar with the company's plans for the Downriver plant. And yes, we'll have a link in the show notes. The two new crossovers would hit the market for the 2023 model year and would be similar in size to the Ford Edge and Lincoln Nautilus. Sven, I turn to you for all things cars.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Continental was introduced. Of course, the Continental has a long-running legendary status in the auto world, right? I mean, you remember the Continentals of the 50s and 60s. They were like these, what you sometimes derisively called land yachts, but they were beautiful cars.
I love
right?
land yachts. I love giant, beautiful cars. I love land yachts.
Yeah, and so you would have loved the Lincoln Continentals. But it's kind of a victim of bad timing in a lot of ways. Crossover and pickup trucks and SUVs are eating sedans for lunch. I mean, the growth curves are going in the opposite direction for the two types of vehicles. And Ford, of course, has basically announced that they're ditching pretty much all of their car models in favor of more utility vehicles and trucks and everything. So the Continental has never, frankly, sold well. I checked, and its second quarter sales for this year were down 28%, 36% year to date. I think they were below 4,000 so far for year to date, which is not good.
You don't see too many Continentals on Instagram, my man.
You don't. So according to Automotive News, they're going to stop producing the Continental at Flat Rock in 2021. It could continue to be built in China and potentially exported to the United States. So it doesn't necessarily mean that consumers won't be able to buy it. But I would also point out that Ford recently canceled plans to export a vehicle called the Focus Active from China because of the trade war and tariffs on Chinese-made goods. So not a given. And I just wanted to say, too, that, I think the Continental was really a dynamite-looking car. I'm talking about the new Continental, the reintroduction. I think it's really got some distinctive design, like some lines to it and some really sleek look to it. I really think that the rear end of it has like a very unique look among sedans. It's unlike anything you see on the roads. And then, earlier this year, they introduced that suicide door version. They had it at the Detroit Auto Show. We talked about that on the previous show, and it was really, really cool looking. But, apparently it's not long for this world, at least not made here in Detroit.
Well, and I think about the general uncertainty with some economic factors. You think about the impact of tariffs and other things. We've got a steel plant that's actually idling nearby this year, and there's temporary layoffs.
200 people.
Yeah. Manufacturing, all of it ties together.
Well, who knows? Maybe this is sort of the first signs of what's to come. I mean, there's certainly been a lot of turbulence on Wall Street lately, and a lot of speculation that we could be, on the sort of trailing edge of going into a recession. So.
Well, and to be completely honest, I mean, we've been in an economic upturn for a long time.
Yeah, we're overdue.
All right, are you looking for a job? JobFairGiant.com is holding 2 job expos later this month, offering on-site interviews with 50 employers. The first is Saturday, August 24th, from 10 in the morning to 2 p.m. at the Best Western Premier Hotel in Southfield. And the second is Wednesday, August 28th, from 9 to 3 at the Wyndham Garden Hotel in Sterling Heights. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up about this one. It's at JobFairGiant.com for more information.
And this last one caught our eye and satisfied our taste for weirdness. Up on Beaver Island, that's in the middle of Lake Michigan, there was recently a caper involving the theft of a sculpture of famous novelist and Northern Michigan favorite son, Ernest Hemingway, from outside the town library. Well, after being missing for 3 months, thieves apparently returned the 9-foot-tall steel sculpture under cover of darkness. Now, there's a Hemingway sculpture project rededication planned at the Beaver Island Public Library. That's at 4 p.m. on August 30th. There's also a reception to follow with the artist John Sauvé at the Whiskey Point Brewing Company on Beaver Island. Jer, who knew there was a brewery up on remote Beaver Island?
I did not, but it sounds like a fabulous idea. And by the way, in case people didn't know, John is actually from around here. He does those orange Man in the City pieces you see popping up all around town on rooftops and stuff.
Yeah, in fact, this very Hemingway sculpture that we're talking about is going to be familiar to anyone who knows those sculptures.
For sure. Sven, have you ever been up to Beaver Island?
You know, I haven't, which is amazing because for many years growing up, we went to Charlevoix for summer vacations, and Charlevoix is where you get the ferry that takes you over to Beaver Island. So it's definitely on my list. The sculpture, incidentally, is part of a series of Hemingway sculptures around Michigan to highlight places of interest from the author's youth. He spent a lot of time in northern Michigan. It's also meant to raise money and awareness for literacy programs, so good thing it's back in the Beaver Island Public Library's hands.
That'll do it for today's show. If you like what we're doing, tell a friend about Daily Detroit, or support our Patreon campaign to ensure we can keep pushing Detroit's conversation forward. Visit patreon.com/dailydetroit to do that. I'm Jer Stays.
And I'm Sven Gustafson. Take care of each other, and we'll see you around Detroit.